Now, what really are these labour codes? We'll break down the details for you. We'll also be joined by experts to help you make sense of what's happening. The NDA has now sought to liberalise, at least they claim that they are trying to liberalise the contract labour system in the country through these labour codes that have been introduced in Parliament. The Labour Ministry has reintroduced three key bills: the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, the Industrial Relations Code and the Code on Social Security. Now, this gives companies a free hand to hire and fire workers along with an easier licensing regime. The change in industrial laws is aimed at allowing full freedom to factories of up to 300 employees to hire and fire workers without seeking any statutory permission. Now, here's the big change. Until now, this was possible only for factories with up to 100 workers. So, factories with up to 100 workers were given a fair bit of leeway as far as labour laws are concerned. Now, the threshold has been increased to 300 workers. The rights of the trade union to go on lightning strikes is something that has also been curtailed, and curtailed very heavily. So, what really is going to be the impact of these labour codes? Well, we have Chandan Kumar, labour activist and national coordinator of the Working People's Charter. He's joining us. He's also a member of the Minimum Wage Advisory Board, Government of India. Thanks so much for being with us. We have Professor K.R. Shamsundar, Professor XLRI, and we have Sunil Bharala, who is Chairman of the Labour Welfare Council, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Is a senior leader of the BJP, and Tehseen Poonawalla, who is a political analyst. Chandan Kumar, I want to begin by asking you, it's important before we get into a debate of what's happening to decode the big changes as far as these labour laws are concerned. The biggest talking point here, of course, is the fact that these leeways have now been extended to companies that have up to 300 workers, as opposed to previously, which was 100 workers. Now, what really is the rationalization behind this?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. So the first of all, that from one shock to another shock, from the land bill to the labor bill, I think a while ago I was hearing to the labor minister, and what he said, that the 50 years old codes need to be replaced. But I would say that these new codes have a centuries old spirit. That the new codes have a centuries old spirit. And let me begin by saying that the provisions which were rejected by the Royal Commission of Labour in 1929, 90 years ago, even the British rule, what the provisions they rejected, this government is trying to retain those provisions. It's absolutely sad, it's absolutely shocking on that. Let me just say the two main points. The first point is that these reforms were meant to give a coverage to the large number of informal workers, unorganized workers. I'm not talking about the industrial workers. I'm talking about the domestic workers, construction workers, daily wage workers, the workers who have seen in such a brutal situation during the COVID lockdown. And the government said that we are going to do this reform to give them coverage, give them a protection. However, forget about the giving them coverage to such a huge population. It is not my report, it's the Government of India report. These workers constitute 93% of the working population of this country. So forget about giving them coverage. The current reform is basically doing away all the basic rights, even for the industrial workers. As you rightly said, 300 and the more workers is absolutely not going to get any protection. Yes. I give you a small example. The current law, the Interstate Migrant Workmen's Act, which talks about the giving a sort of protection to the migrant workers, the current threshold is of 5 workers. Now it has been increased from the 5 workers to 10 workers. So what government is trying to do? The government is trying to basically increase the threshold that will give a more exclusion to the informal sector workers. And the last one, which I'm saying, that the social security, what government is doing, it has been a big trend, all the repackaging and repackaging and repackaging. What they're doing, they're trying to repackage all the same laws, ESIC, EPFO, all the same laws. And if you read the threshold for the ESIC, the 10 workers, the EPFO is the 20 workers. So technically, all these laws are going to exclude over 93% of the working population of this country. So this whole reform, the farce of reform, is absolutely live.
And we'll talk a little more about that. But this, remember, is all these changes are being made based on the Standing Committee recommendations. There was a report that was put out by the Standing Committee in April, and therefore the threshold has been hiked from 100 workers to 300 workers. Professor Sundar, if I can, just come to you at the moment, what according to you is the rationale? Because in this standing committee report, it said that, governments like Rajasthan had already increased this threshold from 100 workers to 300 workers, and it resulted in an increase in employment and decrease in retrenchment. Would you agree with that assessment? Because if that assessment is true, then that's something that the country really needs right now.
Well, the amendment made by the in the Industrial Relations Code from 100 to 300 does not support. Is not. I mean, there is no research evidence to show that increasing the threshold will make any difference on employment generation.
Okay.
And can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. So there is no research evidence to show that change in the threshold will lead to employment generation. And the Rajasthan case is, we require, the data that is available pertaining to the organized factory sector is only till 2017-18. So we can't make any scientific analysis to say that Rajasthan model has worked in order to create employment generation.
Okay.
But I should also add here, more than this, liberalization of the hire and fire, there is another dangerous amendment that has been made in the Industrial Relations Code. That is the threshold for regulations concerning the standing orders.
Yes.
For a factory, that has also been liberalized from 100 to 300.
Yes.
Now the government has got some idea to make it 300 as the kind of threshold. In any progressive civilized society, labor laws over the period of economic development should cover more and more industrial establishments and more workers.
Yes.
But in India, we are seeing the obverse.
Yes.
I am particularly concerned about the standing orders regulation because I would like to tell the readers the Standing Orders Act was enacted in 1946 in order to standardize terms and conditions of service across the occupations and skills and work sets, so that the employer cannot arbitrarily change or determine the terms and conditions of service. And it also provides for employment security against arbitrary dismissal by employers by framing any kind of allegations, malified.
Yes, because you've talked about those standing orders, I think it's important to also break it down. Yes, I think it's important to break it down for our viewers so that the layperson can also understand what this means.
And then dismiss the work.
Professor Sundar, I'm just going to break it down for our viewers, and we're going to try and just put out those graphics as well on what really this means. Now, firms with up to 300 workers can hire and fire at will. They can impose arbitrary service conditions. That's what compliance with standing orders essentially means. It can also restrict the right of workers to strike. No strike can take place without a 60-day notice, and there is no need to provide accommodation now to migrant workers near work sites. This is also a provision of the new law. Let me take this to Sunil Bharala. He is, a member of the BJP, a senior leader of the BJP in Uttar Pradesh, and a member of the Labour Welfare Council, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ उत्तर प्रदेश. सुनील भराला जी, बहुत क्रिटिसिज्म है इन 3 कोड्स के खिलाफ कि ये एंटी लेबर हैं, ये प्रो एम्प्लॉयर है और एंटी लेबर हैं. आप इस क्रिटिसिज्म का कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे?
हेलो
जी,
एक बार फिर से बोले.
मैं कह रही हूँ बहुत क्रिटिसिज्म है ये 3 कोड्स के खिलाफ कि ये एंटी लेबर हैं. आप कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे?
नहीं, इसे कौन कह रहा है इस बात को कि जो 4 कोड है, ये 4 कोड में जो पूरे 29 कानूनों को परिवर्तन करके और पूरे इसे श्रमिकों के हित में जो कानून बना रही है सरकार, तो उसको हमने 4 कोडों में स्थापित किया है. कौन से मुद्दे पर ये बताना चाहते हैं कि ये श्रमिक विरोधी ये बिल है? ये ऐसा बिल्कुल भी प्रतीत नहीं हो रहा. और मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि किसी भी प्रकार की कहीं भी हमने इस बहुत अच्छी व्यवस्था ये बनाई है कि श्रमिक अगर महिला है, उस महिला को जहां सेवा आयोजक उसको लेके जाएगा और छोड़ के आएगा, ये उसकी जिम्मेदारी होगी. तो हमने यहाँ तक की व्यवस्था दी है इसी प्रकार से आप देखिएगा कि मैं आपको 29 नंबर 29 पर अगर कोई देखा जाए, अगर देखा हो किसी ने, ट्रिब्यूनल कोर्ट को लेकर के भी अब हमने 2 लोगों की व्यवस्था बनाई है, और खोलो 2 लोगों की व्यवस्था बनाई है कि उसको सुनने के लिए उनके जो समस्याएं हैं, उनके जो मुकदमे हैं, हाँ। उसमें भी हमने और सहजता की है।
ये जो प्रोफेसर सुंदर ने अभी कहा स्टैंडिंग ऑर्डर के बारे में, ये जो प्रोफेसर सुंदर ने अभी कहा स्टैंडिंग ऑर्डर के बारे में, ये पूरा थ्रेशोल्ड जो है 100 से 300 कर दिया गया है। पहले ये 100 लेबर एम्प्लॉय करने वाली कंपनी तक सीमित था, अब ये 300 तक जो एम्प्लॉय करते हैं उनको काफी जो है लीवे दिए गए हैं। तो क्रिटिसिज्म ये आ रहा है कि ये जो नए कोड्स हैं ये लेबर के लिए नहीं है, बट ये कंपनियों के लिए हैं, प्रो कॉर्पोरेट्स हैं।
कंपनियों को लिए नहीं। अभी आप इसको क्लियर देखिए, इस प्रकार से देखिए। मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा जी कि हमने न्यूनतम वेतन से लेकर के उसके सामाजिक सुरक्षा तक हमने इस बिल में लाए हैं निकाल करके, जहां ये मुद्दा बता रहे हैं कि पहले 100 श्रमिकों को लेकर के था, अब 300 तय किया है, तो उसका और दायरा बढ़ा दिया है, दायरा बढ़ाया है, घटाया नहीं है। कि उसकी जो मान लो हमने उसी में आप देखेंगे, फिर दूसरी तरफ देखो उसका दायरा, यहाँ तो हमने यहाँ बढ़ाया है श्रमिकों के हित में। दूसरा हमने यहाँ जो इनकी लेबर यूनियन है उनको भी ताकत दी है, उनको मजबूत करने का 51% का हमने।
आपने लेबर यूनियन को खत्म ही कर दिया है। लेबर यूनियन के पास तो प्रोटेस्ट करने की भी पावर नहीं बची है।
नहीं, कौन कह रहा है इस बात को?
ये आपके लॉ में लिखा है,
हमारे जो इस बिल में
जी
क्या नहीं, हमने इसमें बहुत स्पष्ट लिखा है, मेरे पास रखा है, मैं आपको पढ़ के भी दिखा सकता हूँ। उसमें बहुत स्पष्ट आप देखें कि 28 नंबर पर है कि हमने ये दिया है कि जो अब जो लेबर यूनियन होगी, यानी कि श्रमिकों के जो संगठन हो गए,
वो लाइटनिंग प्रोटेस्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं, उनको 60 डेज का नोटिस देना पड़ेगा।
नहीं, 60 डे का नोटिस तो देना पहले भी था, नोटिस देने के लिए।
अच्छा, प्रोफेसर सुंदर वांट्स टू कम इन।
सशक्त करने के लिए 51% की भागीदारी
Professor Sundar wants to come in.
I just want to say that legal strikes are going to be virtually impossible because of the 4 conditions that have been laid down.
Yes.
Can I come in, please?
Yes, please. Make your point.
Yeah. Previously, this regulations regarding strikes were applicable for the stringent conditions only for public utility services, and others were exempted. Now, the code has removed the public utility services and applied the provision for legal strikes to all the industrial establishments and all the workers.
Right.
And they have made the conditions so tough.
Yes.
That is, they have to give 14 days notice. Then when the conciliation is on, they cannot go on strike. After 7 days of conclusion of conciliation, they cannot go on strike. Then the dispute will go to the labor industrial tribunal, and industrial tribunal, we all know, takes more than a year and a half. And
practically making it impossible for the...
It is virtually impossible.
Yes, making it virtually impossible for labor to protest or go on strike. Tehseen Poonawalla, you know, the larger picture over here, the government seems to be going, from the controversial farm bill ordinances to now, this entire labor law that is being put in place. I mean, it really does appear that, the government seems to be making some very serious structural reforms. The larger criticism here, of course, is that can these structural reforms actually hold at the time of so much economic instability due to the coronavirus?
You will now have this government and its representatives calling laborers as terrorists after terming farmers as terrorists and earlier on students as terrorists. Having made the initial political point, let's come to the data, because the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The 2 most industrial states in India, or 3, is Maharashtra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. All of these 3 states very strictly enforce labor laws. And yet industry chooses to come in Maharashtra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu as over other states of India. The reason for this being is, and if you were to look at the example of other progressive states across the world, you will see that as a company progresses, as a country develops, the company is morally bound to take its partners. The country and the company are morally bound to take its partners, in this case the laborers, along and help them grow, not actually cut them down and take away their rights.
Yes.
Now let me just go to another example. Obviously the example of Rajasthan is continuously cited.
Yes.
Two, again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Rajasthan voted out the BJP government when they introduced these draconian laws. But more importantly, can this government, and I challenge you on NDTV, give me the data for Rajasthan?
Okay.
This is the government that in Parliament said it does not have the data for migrants who died, data for migrants across the country.
I will touch upon the issue of data in just a bit. I will touch upon the issue of data in just a bit. But Chandan Kumar, I think Tehseen Poonawalla raises a very important point here, that when these laws were pushed forth in Rajasthan and one doesn't really know how it has played out after these laws have been implemented, there was a government that was voted out. What's the sentiment on the ground? And I'll give you the last word, Chandan Kumar. What's the sentiment on the ground? How do unions, how do people who are directly going to be impacted by this feel about it?
See, I'm not going to comment what he said, but I'm just going to comment on that this entire reform, whether you talk about Rajasthan or all the other states, the whole idea was to make the reform to extend the coverage to the informal workers. Why we are only talking about the industrial workers? Why we are not talking about the migrant workers, the daily wage workers, the domestic workers, the construction workers, the huge population. We have seen such a brutal, kind of situation in the COVID lockdown. And now the Prime Minister is always talking about ki garibo ki sarkar, mazduro ki sarkar. So where are these garibo ki sarkar is going to find a space in this labor law reform?
Right.
I mean, you see the threshold, as Professor Shyam Sundar talked about that. He talked about the industrial worker, but I'm talking about the very basic thing. The migrant workers, when they leave their state from the Bengal, Bihar, etc., they're absolutely stateless citizen. Absolutely stateless citizen.
I think this is clearly a conversation that we ought to continue. I'm afraid I'm completely out of time. I know these few minutes haven't done justice to this debate at all, but we promise to revisit this conversation.